junior of our size with production, expanding production, hopefully tripling production, and 50,000 plus meters of drilling happening on two different projects in two different districts in Mexico. I think it's pretty exciting.
Sierra Madre is a Mexican precious metals producer and exploration company focused on becoming Mexico's next mid-tier silver producer. The company is expanding production on its Guitarra mine and is expected to shortly complete the acquisition of the Del Toro silver mine from First Majestic Silver. We've got CEO Alex Langer joining us to walk us through the story and show us where the growth, value, and opportunities lie within Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. Please remember this is neither a recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Alex, great to see you.
Wonderful to see you, Martin. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, a lot is going on at Sierra Madre. So why don't you do a quick walk through the deck and then we can dig into some of the aspects of it.
Yeah, that sounds great. First off, thank you again for the kind introduction. My name is Alex Langer, and I'm President and CEO of Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. Sierra Madre Gold and Silver is probably one of the newest precious metals producers out there. We announced commercial production at our 100% owned La Guitarra silver and gold mine. That mine is located just outside of Mexico City. It's about a 2.5 hour drive, including traffic. We started at 500 tons per day. We've been continuing at that level for about a year now, and we did announce in the summer plans to expand, as you had mentioned earlier. So we're doing kind of a two-pronged approach. We want to move from 500 tons per day up to 750, 800 tons per day by June of this year. So getting there, getting a bit closer. And then a second larger expansion up to 12 to 1,500 tons per day by Q3 of 2027. So almost tripling capacity if all works out well over the next kind of 20 months here. So things are moving pretty hot and heavy. Obviously, the silver market has been fantastic. I think our timing has been quite strong. And as you mentioned, we did announce a pretty exciting acquisition of Del Toro from First Majestic. We announced that at the end of December, and we're just going through that closing steps. But I'll get into both those projects and our plans moving forward the next little while over the presentation here. Forward-looking statements, I've already made a few. I definitely will make a few more. So this is on our website and able to review at any time. So as Martin had mentioned, we do have two projects. The one in operation right now is a La Guitarra mine. It's in full commercial production, and we do have expansion underway. And the second project is Del Toro, which we announced in December. Still a few months before we close that transaction, but we did close, usually the largest, the most difficult part. We did raise 57.5 million. That's under a subscription receipt. So that gets released once the acquisition closes. So we do need to do Mexican antitrust, shareholder approval, and an NI 43-101, which are all underway as we speak. Technically, everything we're doing is really led by one gentleman. His name is Greg Liller. Greg and his team, I should say. Greg's an exploration geologist. However, he's ran and operated numerous mines in Mexico. He's actually had now 8 mines that he's been a part of, from development stage all the way through to production. You do it once or twice, if you're lucky to do it 8 times. It's pretty special. He's had some big M&A successes, including Gammon Gold, which sold for $750 million US. And he also ran and operated Genco Resources, which just happened to have the La Guitarra mine. So we have a rich history with the mine. A technical team ran and operated it for many years. Greg's the one that took it from 100 tons per day when Lewisman had it up to 500 tons per day, which is what its capacity is right now. Along with Greg, we also have Luis Saenz. He's our director of, in essence, mining in Mexico. Luis is a Mexican based. He's trained in the US, but he's worked with numerous companies in and around North America. Before joining Sierra Madre, Luis was director of mining and exploration for Frisco. So he had about 14 different projects he was in charge of. So he brought along his whole team over there once we acquired La Guitarra. They had 14 different mines he was in charge of, so quite comfortable with multiple operations and working in Mexico. Outside of Greg, myself, CFO, and CFO. We're all the rest of the team is Mexican based, so we're the only 3 gringos in the company. Otherwise, we're not relying on any consultants. We're doing kind of everything in house. If you came to site now, there'd be about 350 people working there, so it's really a big team and it's grown quite quickly. But we have the capacity to grow further, and we'll need to do that, especially with Del Toro coming online. One more person I'll quickly touch on is Alejandro Carabello. Alejandro comes from a really well-known Mexican mining family. He was part of La Guitarra beforehand. He also ran numerous security companies, including working for Pan American, Coeur, Frisco, just to name a few. So again, we have offices in Chihuahua, Mexico, and we handle everything internally. Mexican controller, Mexican legal, that's all done in-house. We're not relying on consultants or anything like that. So full proper operations team. So our La Guitarra project, we're located, as I mentioned, just outside of Mexico City. This is the capital of Mexico. Toluca is a town of about 1.5 million people. It's about an hour away, and we're about an hour from there, depending on traffic. About 2.5 hours, including traffic from Mexico City to the mine. So in terms of location, it doesn't get much better. We're on the grid, ample water, and there's about 30,000 people that live within the project boundary. So huge workforce. When this mine originally shut down in 2018, it was the largest employer within the area. It's now agriculture. Actually, we're probably the largest now, but between agriculture and us, that was really it. So when we turned the mine back on again, as test mining in 2014, it was a pretty big honeymoon period, and it's continued forward. So we've seen new restaurants. These are really high-paying jobs. Mining pays almost triple what a construction would pay in Mexico. So we've had incredible support from the local administration, from local community, from the state level. These are high-paying jobs. 350 new jobs is pretty significant. So new hotels and new roads, new infrastructure, all the stuff that's kind of come back to the community, and it's been amazing. I was last at site in December, driving through with the Sierra Madre branded trucks, and everyone's waving and they're happy. So it's really cool. So it's gone extraordinarily well. It's also a very safe part of Mexico that we're located. There's a toll road all the way kind of to site. Maybe the last 20 minutes isn't a toll road, but it's still in very good shape, and everyone's really happy to have us there. This is a land package. It's quite large. It's about 24,000 hectares. It's one of the largest mining concessions in Mexico. It actually costs us $1 million US a year just to hold the land. Quite strange for a junior of our size to have it. It's a whole district. This is the third largest, most prolific mining district for silver and gold in all of Mexico historically. If you look across the project boundaries, about 19 former major mines. We're currently operating from 3 of those mines, but we will be exploring the rest of them here in the second half of this year. So we actually purchased this project for the exploration upside, which I'll get into. But with the price of silver going crazy, I remember it ran to $24, and we're like, we got to get into production right away. So we kind of pivoted. We kind of took the approach of let's use the capital we have to go into production. We got into the market, give us 2 years, and we actually turned this thing on 13 months later. Again, a technical team had worked there. They understood, kind of where the skeletons were, the quickest way to get into production, and it's been amazing timing. So we're currently mining from La Guitarra. That's where the mill is located as well. And we brought online Coloso and Nazareno also in the second half of 2025. Coloso is the highest grade mine. It's also quite new. First Majestic built that in 2014. So it's, super large portals, break rooms, everything like that, all ready to go. So that's kind of coming online as we speak, and we will be increasing production from there. And also Nazareno, which is collected to Coloso through a large underground tunnel that First Majestic had built as well. So First Majestic did a great job in terms of the care of maintenance, community relations, environmental. Everything was really ready to go. Only one permit we needed, and that was an explosive permit. Other than that, the whole area was pretty much good to go. So we had to do a lot of development. We're still doing development, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but it's gone well. We were able to produce 500 tons per day just from La Guitarra. So as we move up from 500 to 750 to 800 up to 12 to 1500, there'll be more material coming from Coloso and Nazareno. But this Mina de Agua, El Rincon, and Animas projects, former mines, that's where we're going to be exploring coming later this year. So we plan about 20 to 25,000 meters of drilling. So really a large number. It's the first time there's been modern drilling on that part of the project. Again, $1 million a year to hold this as a junior can be quite expensive. In a downturn in a silver market, this would have probably been broken up to 3 or 4 juniors, looking at different areas. But since it was held by First Majestic, they were able to control the whole district. And again, when we acquired it, we acquired the whole district. First thing we did when we acquired the project is to do an updated 43101 resource report. There'd been about 236,000 meters of drilling at the project, but it hadn't been updated in a little while. So what we had to do is we had to drive underneath the underground tunnels. There's about 40 or 50 kilometers of tunnels. We had to use a LiDAR kind of truck mounted camera, scan all the inside, came up with an updated NI 43101 resource report. So it's just under 50 million if you add it through all categories, which is a great number for us, especially at 500 tons per day. This mine was producing maybe a million 2 ounces a year, which is, not a huge amount. It's one of the reasons First Majestic did turn off the mine is it's actually making money when they shut it down, but it's really marginal. $12, $13, it was making a bit of money, but for them, wasn't moving the needle. So they had in care of maintenance. They love the mine and they'd always planned to turn it back on. Just worked out well with my technical team that they believed in what we were going to be doing and they had agreed to sell it to us. So, as I mentioned, 50 million ounces at 500 tons per day. It's a really long mine life, theoretically. So it's one of the impetuses for us to increase throughput. A lot of resource there. Even if we triple production, that's well more than 10 years sitting there. And that's without any exploration success. I mentioned earlier that the Colossal mine is quite a bit higher grade. As you'll see there, it's about 221 grams within the resource model just on the silver side, plus another 1.6 grams on the gold side. So super high grade. So we're getting to those areas. We're still working through it. We started this mine on a shoestring budget. We had $10 million we had raised for exploration. We kind of converted that to development and reworking some equipment, and then we did a 5 million US loan with First Majestic, which let us get into production. So with full rental fleet, we started to buy that equipment, and you'll see that within our financials. But we were able to get it online with a shoestring budget, really just kind of mining as much as we could and doing that out of development. But now that we have a lot of extra capital and we're making cash flow, we're able to really catch up development and see some of these grades that are going to be, hopefully within the next couple of quarters, you'll really start to see grades, recoveries, all that good stuff improve. And if the silver price hangs around where it is right now, it should be quite profitable. So as I mentioned, a lot of stuff we had to do. This is all kind of operational now, but it's all moving, quite well. These are our costs for the first 3 quarters. Our quarter four financials for year end. This should be out, I think, kind of March, April-ish. We're on TSX Venture, so how the auditors work is they do the TSX companies first, then you move to the venture companies. So our year-end financials will be out, then our quarter one financials will be like 2 or 3 weeks later. So we're ready to go. Just takes a while to get into things and being the first full year of commercial production, a little bit extra accounting that we've had to do. But as you can see here, our sales profitability has gone up kind of every quarter. Our AISC is way too high. We started at 28, went to 30. All in is 34 last quarter. And that was from a number of the factors I mentioned earlier. The big one is development. So again, we turned it on 11 months earlier than we had planned, and we'd be making money really since day one. But as the development gets caught up, this huge amount of this, about $10 per ASIC ounce, is development costs. And so once we're fully caught up, you'll see that number come down. The other big thing was rental equipment. So about $4 of that number was from rental equipment. And we announced about 2 weeks ago, we pretty much purchased a full fleet, whether it was used, bought some new equipment, a lot of refurbished old equipment. I think there's only 2 more pieces we have to buy, and then we'll have our own fleet. And we're also starting to buy equipment for the first expansion as well as the second expansion. And we've been able to do that all out of cash flows, which is good. So that number will start to come down over the next quarter and a half. Let's give it a little bit of time, and we'll be able to see the profitability go up, even though things are going really well right now. Recoveries have been quite good, right around 75% on the gold side, 77 on the silver. We think we can get that up. Still fine tuning. We did add another cone crusher for expansion number one. So there'll still be a lot of fine tuning we need to do, especially when we added a new ball mill and a few other things we're working through. But at today's prices, it's amazing. We're able to process lower grade material. We've been doing that just because it is profitable. So we're focused on profitability more so than throughput or ounces or anything like that. It's for us profitability, and at today's prices, we're quite fortunate. As I mentioned, there's a two-pronged, two-phase expansion process at La Guitarra. Phase one is well underway. We had news on that last week. There's kind of 3 things we need to do. One of them was increase the circuit's material capacity, and that's through a cone crusher. We've done that. So that's operational. You can see the photo here now. If you go to our social media, you actually see it running. So we're testing it. We also need to add another ball mill. So the ball mill is purchased. It's actually being refurbished as we speak into Chihuahua, Mexico. Expecting that to come to site in the next month or so. I just heard today that we've decided on our contractor who's going to be, I guess, cementing it in. There's space for it already within the mill. What's great about this mill is it's quite modular. We can add different components. And then the final piece that we'll need to do is a new paste fill thickener plant. Footings are already being installed for that. It's being constructed in Toluca, that town, which is about an hour away, and that should be arriving kind of April-ish. And then we'll be able to test it to put material underground. So as it stands right now, we have about 2 years of tailing space in our current wet facility. The wet facility, it's at 500 tons per day. So if we are increasing production, we do need to increase tailings capacity and tailing space. So this paste backfill will allow us to put about 750 up to 800 tons per day into the underground, which really alleviates any of that tailings space. We also announced about a month ago that we purchased a very similar sized piece of land to our current tailings facility right beside it. So we could go through the process there of perhaps permitting a larger facility. So that'll be for phase one expansion. Now the full budget on that is $3.5 million US. We're actually well within budget, which is good. The ball mill is used, the cone crusher is new. And again, within mining, everything gets used within 4 or 5 days anyway. So there's spots where we can save money, especially on equipment or things like that. We will do it. Phase two expansion is about $5 million US. So again, not a huge amount of capital outlay. We did raise $19.5 million with a lead order from Franklin Templeton out of the US. This is allowing us to increase production as well as that exploration program. So phase two, we do have to add a second jaw crusher. That's going to be the front of the circuit. We've already identified where that's going to go. We will have to add one more ball mill. We currently have three of them on operation. A fourth one will be arriving shortly, and we'll just replace one of the smaller ones. Because about an 80 ton per day ball mill, we'll replace that with another 500 to 600 tons. So we'll have overcapacity, which is always good. If you're working on maintenance on a couple of ball mills, you can still process material as you need because there's quite a bit of downtime with these mills and various components. So if you had one big ball mill and there's an issue, then you're kind of out of luck. So we can do maintenance on one for a few days while the other one's in operation. So redundancy is always good. And then finally, the biggest thing we'll need to do is construction of a fully permitted 5.8 million ton dry stack tailings facility. So it's huge, 10 plus year capacity. It's just expensive. So everything we can do to minimize that capital outlay for the time being makes sense. It's about $10 million US. However, year one is about 2.9 million. So phase two expansion, year one is about 5 million US, and then we'll be able to do the rest of the expansion out of cash flow. So we'll start the process for at least the civil work for the permitted new tailings facility in October of this year, actually, once the rainy season is over. So a huge cost of that is these liners. So you don't want to have them kind of filling up with water when you don't need to. So once that's done, civil work will get underway, liners will go in. And then once that's fully operational, we should be up to 12 to 1,500 tons per day by Q3 of 2027. Getting material from the mine, I'm really not worried about it. We're able to show that we're able to get 500 tons per day just from La Guitarra alone. First Majestic was getting 500 tons per day just from Colosso and Nazareno as well. So we'll have production centers from those three areas, and we should be able to feed the mill pretty comfortably. Now, having said that, this is probably the maximum size, to be honest, of the mill, just in terms of the amount of material you're going to be moving, the infrastructure, the footprint. It's a right size for what we want to do and what we feel. So, 1,500 tons per day, it's still a lot of material. Again, at 500 tons per day, this mine is producing about 1 million ounces of silver equivalent. So if we could triple that, that would be fantastic. And that could happen, as soon as Q3 of 2027. And actually, while we bought the project, it's really this district-wide exploration potential. We've now identified 59 kilometers of vein material just at surface. We truly feel this is the largest undeveloped silver district in all of Mexico. So, we've always said we want to drill. We're finally at a point where we have enough capital and the market wants us to. So we're going to be doing that in the second half of this year, and that's fully budgeted. So if we zoom in on the East District, which is over here, this is where the historic mining mainly occurred. Mina de Agua and El Rincon. I'll zoom in one here. So this is Mina de Agua. So Mina de Agua was the largest mine within the complex. It had about 10,000 employees when it shut down in 1910. They got a little bit too deep, it flooded. It's not just a clever name. They built a couple sublevels trying to dewater it, and those flooded shortly thereafter. All these little black dots are former workings. A lot of them are more significant than others, but there's about 500 of them within the project area. As we can see here, this is recent basalt, so there's a volcano not too far away. But wherever there's erosion within the basalt, we see these veins. So in all likelihood, a lot of these are going to continue kind of all the way through. Again, the exploration potential is massive. We still have a lot to map, but wherever there's erosion within that basalt, you see mines, you see workings, things like that. And the one I'm most excited for is the former El Rincon mine. El Rincon was the last mine in production within the district. It ran for about 30 years, up until 1937. However, the head grade at El Rincon was 6.5 grams gold and 850 grams silver. Some of the highest grades I've ever seen, especially in Mexico. That was the average grade at 100 tons per day. So we're really excited. This is the prize, and this is what we're going to be drilling in the second half of this year. So we'll do 20 holes. We'll follow it up with another 40 holes and 80 holes. We won't drill without the benefit of assay. We have our own assay lab, so we'll have really quick turnaround times, at least for ourselves internally. Obviously, when we disclose results in the market, we'll have to do a third party independent lab, so those take a little bit more time. But in terms of the exploration and what we want to achieve, we can get that done really, really quickly. So we're excited. We've also purchased a large piece of land right around here as well. First Majestic did that. Actually, has a MIA, so it's fully permitted. So if we find what we think we could find, we could start production right away. We would double that land. So, if this becomes much larger and it has a good shot, it would be a great spot to put another mill and capacity. First Majestic had that idea as well. Keep La Guitarra running operational as it is right now, and then build a much, much larger facility within this area as well to feed, to take advantage of these veins. Western District, won't touch on this too much. We'll get into Del Toro shortly, but this is where we're currently mining. We have a lot of theories on these veins that continue. So Western District, we think there's a lot of expansion potential as well, just in the areas we're mining. But I think the true prize is the East District, especially with those grades. So Del Toro. As a reminder, we announced a Del Toro acquisition in late December. We closed a sub-receipt financing for $57.5 million. We purchased this as well from First Majestic. They are our largest shareholder. I think they've been pretty happy with what we're able to deliver at La Guitarra. They've been nothing but amazing to us in terms of providing a loan and giving us opportunity to acquire Del Toro. We are paying in total, in essence, 40 million US. 30 million upfront, 10 million in 18 months after that. And then from there, two stage payments, which bring it up to 16 million. The final two stage payments we'll get into are more milestone delivered payments, which we would be happy to pay. So Del Toro was constructed in 2013, 2014. It's a 3,000 ton per day facility. It is massive. It is beautiful. It is in incredible shape. I like to say that, La Guitarra is a 1998 Ford diesel truck. It's going to run forever. It's doing well. But Del Toro is an absolute Cadillac. First Majestic spent about 175 million constructing it. They've done an incredible job in terms of maintenance and community relations, environmental work. It's ready to turn on. They even have the explosive permit. So for us, what we love about this project is it fits really well within the Sierra Madre thematic of quick to production, de-risk through permits, and the ability to expand through exploration. A lot of our technical team in Mexico has worked in the area. A lot of them worked at Peñoles, they worked at Pan American, they worked at Grupo Mexico, and they love the area. They love the district. A lot of the biggest silver mines in Mexico are the CRD deposits, and that's what we have within this region. So we're in elephant country. We find a lot of potential here at surface to find some of these big CRDs, and that's one of the reasons. The first thing we want to do is a large exploration campaign. So we budgeted 30,000 meters of drilling, and that'll start in the second half of this year. So there's not too many juniors out there, with production and well over 50 100,000 meters of drilling happening, in the next 12 months or so. So we're pretty excited, especially on Del Toro. Again, to have the ability to increase and grow into a mid-tier producer, this is where we feel Del Toro can really bring us. So when Del Toro was in production during its best years, it was producing about 4 million ounces of silver equivalent. It is higher grade than La Guitarra, and it also has lead and zinc as well. So where La Guitarra is fully precious metals, just gold and silver, currently about 50-50. Traditionally, it was about 60-40, depending on the price of silver, gold, but right now it's around 50-50. Del Toro has more lead, has more zinc, as well as silver. So you have upside and a bit of hedging, I guess, is what kind of built into it. So as I mentioned, it's fully permitted. This mine shut down in 2019. However, they ran the processing plant up through 2020. They just permitted a large 12-year, 2,000 ton per day tailings facility as well. So that's good to go, just needs to be built out. And as we can see here, if we add up these numbers together, they're producing about 2.5 million ounces of silver equivalent production annually, but some years up to 4 million ounces. Again, this mine shut down really because of the silver price. When silver was at $13-14, it didn't make much sense for First Majestic to continue here. Costs were a little bit higher than that, so they focused their attention on San Dimas, which was producing monthly what these mines can do on an annual basis. So had on care and maintenance again. They still really believe in it. They are a larger shareholder after this transaction, about a third of us. So they do get the upside as well. There's 3 mines within the area that we're mining from. We see potential here to turn those on, relatively quickly. We do want to explore first, but if silver continues to do what it does, there's a possibility to turn it on a little bit quicker. Within the whole district, as I mentioned, you can see here, this is Del Toro. We have the La Colorada mine, San Martin, Sabinas mine. So very, very close to some of the biggest operations that we have in Mexico, especially some of the largest silver mines. Current resources here, about 19 million ounces. Plan there is to drill, increase that, and then move towards production as it is such a large facility. So at surface, as I mentioned earlier, we see a bunch of different mineralizations, various chimneys, there's skarn deposits, there's CRD potential, there's these high-grade veins as well. So all within these districts, and that's what you're going to find across the whole area. Actually, this La Colorada mine the Cronos y Guantas project is quite a bit of copper as well. So lots of different potential, lots of mineralization, and it's again the Mexican team that just loves this area that really pushed this acquisition, and we were happy to kind of play along with that. Also in a huge district as well, there's been mining within the 1550s all the way through to modern times. Exploration, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a geologist by any means. This is Greg's and the rest of the technical team's bailiwick. But you can see here within the resource itself, when you add in the zinc and the lead and the gold, the silver equivalent is just under 400 grams. So quite a bit higher than we have at La Guitarra. Again, we expect to increase this number within that drilling campaign. But we have all these other, mantos and various things that we can see at surface that we do want to explore that we feel can really add to that resource. We've now identified 23 different targets that we comfortable with drilling within that 30,000 meter campaign later this year. Again, some of the various mineralization that we do see, mantos, the chimneys, CRDs, and then the veins within there. So the plan here over the next 18 months, pretty straightforward. We didn't want to take away from what we're doing at La Guitarra. The expansion is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of our expertise. Having said that, exploration work is quite a bit easier than mining for the time being. So we do really just need 4 geologists, 10 helpers. That's going to give us 30,000 meters of drilling, 20,000 meters of assays, including a very strong contingency. So if all goes well, we will come out with a resource report in early 2028. So again, buying us a little bit of time to complete all the expansion at La Guitarra while we're drilling, while we're doing the technical work there for 43101. And if it comes up positive, then again, we can turn on that mine kind of at our discretion within a year. It gives you an idea of what it looks like. As I mentioned, it is pretty spectacular. The work, the offices, the expansion, flotation cells, like it's way overbuilt in our capacity than what we need right now. But again, modular. So these are large flotation cells. We could just turn on a few of them. It's one of the ideas is perhaps we start at a much smaller scale, similar to what we did at La Guitarra, where we'd start, 250 tons per day, move that up to five, move it up to eight, see where we go from there, and just have a few of these in operations, save on your costs. I'll give you an idea, like these tailing filter presses are beautiful, ready to go. There's a 2,000 ton per day ball mill here. There are some smaller ones, so we can play around with some of the ideas of what we want to do if it starts to make sense, and I'm sure we can get into that a little bit further. Uh, Now, guided to the market that at these prices, it's kind of it makes a lot of sense to turn it on much quicker than we had planned. So if we decide to do that, we were just at site here recently. Once we acquire fully the project, which should happen in April, May, we'll be able to really put together a plan. We did this at La Guitarra, so I'm very confident we'll be able to do it here at Del Toro if we wanted to. But our initial budget is approximately 10 million US to turn this on to produce kind of around 800 tons per day within a year. It would take us about 12 months. So silver is, running where we're at now, if not higher. I think it would make a lot of sense to do so. Not a huge amount of capital, as I mentioned, 10 million. Most of that is mining equipment, about 5.3 million. We need about a million for lab, a little bit on the plant. That's really wear parts, conveyor belts, things like that. Also the strong contingency. So we know what the mining equipment costs to refurbish. We know what it costs to purchase. So these numbers are very, very conservative, to be honest. And again, if we start at 250 tons per day, get people in the area working again, fully permitted again. So we just turn it on, but everyone comfortable, and then wrapping up production while we do development. It's an idea. Outside of that, we need about 1 year of development work to get to where we want to get to at 800 tons per day. And then with exploration success, we can move that up to 1,600 tons per day. So that's all kind of exciting. I know these timelines, they're a little bit fluid, but we do want to give ourselves a little bit of leeway to see what makes sense, and the market will dictate what we do, of course. So silver keeps running, I think we'll probably have to turn it on, but if not, we can work on our expansion on La Guitarra and then go explore Del Toro and then get that ready for production when that makes sense. So I mentioned this earlier, the full acquisition cost is 60 million US dollars. So at closing, we owe First Majestic 20 million US in cash and 10 million in shares. That's going to bring them up to about a third, 33, 34% of the company. Again, they've been incredible to us. I think they've been happy with what we've done at La Guitarra. And again, I think, one of the reasons they're willing to sell Del Toro to us is just the work that we've done and that we've been able to prove it to the market. Within 4 years, if we hit 100 million ounces of silver equivalent within a resource, we owe them 10 million. Again, I'd be really happy to pay that. If we do have some exploration success, that would be good. And then the final one, within 5 years, another 10 million payment. That's in cash or shares. Those last three payments are, and that's if we can get up to 4,000 tons per day. As I mentioned, we're in a really interesting district with lots of other mines in the area. This facility is probably the most modern. It is great. So there could be an opportunity there to toll mill, to acquire some other land, to really kind of consolidate within that area and process, ore just from us or from others. So quite a bit of optionality there. And again, if we're able to do so, I'd be happy to pay another 10 million for that. Quickly on the closing steps. Within January, we already closed the financing, so that's done. We'll have to do shareholder approval, so those should be out in the next week or so, just working on the information circular and all the stuff you need to do there. Mexican antitrust, so that was applied for last week. It's about a 105-day process, and then finally TSX venture approval all at the same time. So it is a related party transaction. As First Majestic is our largest shareholder, one of the reasons we do need shareholder approval. Timelines, the La Guitarra expansion, those are pretty definite. We're well on track for that phase one expansion, which I mentioned, coming here in quarter two, and a quarter two, so quarter three, plus the exploration and then the phase two expansion, which should be complete by quarter three of 2027. So Del Toro exploration and the mineral resource estimate, 12 million budget on that. That's going to start as soon as we close the transaction, which will be in quarter two. Getting ourselves 24 to 30 months for that. 30,000 meters is going to take a lot of time. We do want to be pretty impactful in terms of our drilling. Drilling costs in Mexico are quite low. You're looking at about 150 US a meter all in, including assays. Probably even do less, especially with the size of programs we're doing, but that's where we budget. And then the Del Toro possible mine restart. Again, it's got to make sense, and we can move this up and down as needed, or as the market dictates. It's a couple things. It's quite important. We push La Guitarra into production without a feasibility or bankable feasibility or definitive bankable feasibility. So all the numbers we've done are internal. We're very comfortable with that. Same with the Del Toro. I don't foresee us doing a feasibility study. It takes a lot of time, costs quite a bit of money, and if you know your costs, we know our working hours, we know our energy costs, we know our manpower costs, all of that already. We can get much more exact than a feasibility study. So we're pretty confident internally with what we have, and that information, it makes it a little bit tricky to borrow against it. But again, we have cash flows, we have enough money to do all of this already once we close the transaction. Share structure. This is before the $57 million we just raised. It gives you an idea of what the shareholder registry looks like. Shares outstanding 196 million. We do have some employee options and then warrants. These warrants were 1 year. They'll be up in the summer of 2026. It really allowed one of our largest shareholders to invest. They wanted to put in more at the time, just because of our liquidity and our market cap. They weren't able to do so. So those are really held. I just ran the numbers. Two groups own 8 million of those. So there's not too many left. Whatever was owed out to the market is pretty much gobbled up right now. So current assets and cash, about 17 million. And then we have that private placement, 57 and a half. That's not within that number. Once we close, that we'll be able to get a hold of. We do have a 5 million US loan with First Majestic, 50%. By far the cheapest capital we were offered at the time. Really great of them again to give us that. That's due in May 2027. I expect to pay that off earlier as well. We do have a couple of analysts covering us, both Beacon and VSA, and hopefully we'll get a few more over the next little while here. And then the key shareholders, as I mentioned, First Majestic, they're at about 26.2%. That number will go up after this financing closes or the acquisition closes. They'll go to about 33, 34%. Institutional has really grown. As I mentioned, Franklin Templeton, they now own 9.9% of the company. They're actually maintaining that as well in the next private placement. And then the Commodity Capital, they own 8%. They've kind of come with us every step of the way since the beginning, from the first financing all the way through, and they maintained it in this last round as well. And then there's one other fund, I can't quite mention them yet, European-based, one of the largest I guess mining funds, precious metals in the world, and they've actually come in for 10% as well. So we have three amazing funds, all above 8% commodity, Franklin Templeton, and a very large European one. So the institutional ownership is quite large. If we looked at this a year ago, it was 8%. So we've had some good success within the market, and that's really kind of what's driven the share price appreciation is these institutions and high retail, high net worth is still 16%. So our volumes have been quite good, and then management and founders, pretty good. It's still at 24%. Obviously, it's going to come down. I've invested personally $2 million into the company at all levels. Greg Liller has invested about $1.5 million. So we are heavily vested. We own a lot of this company. So everything we do, we're very, very careful. As I mentioned, there's four of us in Vancouver. We have a part-time shared office, trying to keep our costs down as much as possible. So I think it's important that management has that much equity. That shows that we believe in what we're doing. I would have done more in the last couple of financings, but I kept on getting cut back just because we had so much interest, which is a good thing. So very, very happy with the share structure, and proud that we have 4 or 5, including Eric Sprott, some really great shareholders. That's about it, I think. I hope that wasn't too long, but really looking forward to questions and getting into the weeds a little bit more.
Very in-depth presentation. You really covered. I kept having to X off my questions because you were addressing them. So I appreciate that. With the price of silver currently, you mentioned that you're what, let's say, operational decisions are you sort of modifying right now to sort of take advantage of it? And are you kind of assuming that it's going to stay at this high level? Are you sort of high grading some things? And because your cash flow right now, given at the early stages, is much more valuable than cash flow a couple of years from now when you've built up buffer and more assets in that. I guess can you talk about how the price of silver in your earlier stage of production development is at, how you're managing your operational strategy?
Sure. Yeah. So I had mentioned earlier that, we turned this thing on at 24 bucks.
Yeah.
That was the impetus for the silver price to get us going to get in production. And so I ran all my models at 24 and 24 silver and actually winning $200 gold. So anything above that, I was comfortable kind of moving forward. I run my models a little bit differently now. I'm at about 30 and 3,500. So again, lots of space to go there, and let's have us getting down to about $22 ASIC. I think that's fair. I think we can get there. I hope to beat that, to be honest. I see one of the questions already. So today at these silver prices, we have a lot of margin there. So it's the only thing I can control personally as a miner is my costs. I can't control, what the other inputs are, price of oil, the price of silver, price of gold. I can't control any of that. All I can do is control my own costs. So as long as I'm comfortable with that, whatever happens is great. You get leverage and all of that. Now, in terms of what we're mining, we're probably mining some lower grade stuff than we normally would, especially at these prices, just because it's profitable. We're able to save some on higher grade down the road in case silver doesn't continue or maintains. It'd be great. So we're able to do all this stuff out of cash flow, and even that $34 ASIC number was, an extra $10 just in development costs. So it goes to show where we're going to get to. So we're probably producing lower grade than we could for the time being, but again, longer term, it's going to be beneficial, I think, to shareholders, and again, management owning so much. We're really running it for kind of a bit longer term review, just to have, we want to have these steady increases of quarters. A market hates stagnation. Market hates when you kind of, go up and then you drop down a quarter, things like that. So we never want that to happen. We're just going to kind of continue to move forward over the next, year or two, I think, to be honest.
What are the current grades you're mining roughly?
So we haven't disclosed those, to be
Okay.
honest. We don't have a PA. We have to be a little bit careful. But majority is being La Guitarra. You can kind of work the numbers backwards. We'll get up to, I think, that 200 number, 200 grams, eventually. But right now it's, probably half that, to be honest.
Let's switch over to some of the audience questions. Obviously, some unfortunate headline news, especially over the weekend, coming out of Mexico with the cartels, and there have been some other unfortunate incidents with the mining industry. How is that affecting your plans? How should we view it? And are you adding additional security on the site to protect both people and the concentrate?
Yeah, it's a very fair question, and it's incredibly sad what's happened, especially to the miners, and even what we're seeing right now in Guadalajara, which is the third largest city in Mexico and hosted one of the World Cup games, and even Puerto Vallarta, where there's numerous Canadians and Americans and people holidaying there. So, a couple things with that. For us, we're in a very safe area. We're very quite fortunate. We're in the state of Mexico City. So that type of activities is, quite low. We're actually about 20 minutes away from a city called Valle de Bravo, where a lot of the wealthy Mexicans have their weekend homes. So it's a beautiful area, but we're kind of far enough away, close enough that it's safe. Like we don't have armed guards or anything like that. We just have, regular security just to make sure you're who you say you are when you enter the gates. It's completely closed off. People want to work there as it is a safe area and it's a lovely area. So we're quite fortunate. Concentrate shipments are relatively straightforward. We drive them out to the coast. We switch the days up. They're all guided and tracked. We're not a huge operation, so not a huge amount of risk. We're not producing a doré as well. So you produce a doré, you have more security you would have to have. You'd have a vault. You'd be helicoptering in and out. We don't. We just have a concentrate. There have been concentrate thefts, but it's usually much larger amounts. So again, that's kind of once we pass it over at the gate, it's kind of our hands at that point. But again, we want everyone to be safe. We monitor situations on a daily basis, hourly basis. As I mentioned, our country manager, Alejandro Carveo, he ran private security companies for Coeur, for Pan American, for Frisco, some of the largest Mexican mining companies in the world. So we're quite fortunate to have these people and staying on top of the pulse of what's happening in Mexico. So in terms of our operations, nothing's changed. We're quite fortunate to be in the areas we're in now. Talking about Mexico as a whole, the guy who they took out, I guess, in Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta, he was a pretty bad dude. So it's one of these things where, hopefully, three things could happen after something like that, where, maybe the next in command just kind of grows forward, or the rest of the cartels try to move in, and you don't want that. Uncertainty is the worst, or when two groups try to fight over the same area, it's when you get violence, or these groups kind of become insular and start to think, we got to maintain what they're doing and things like that. And then, peace can happen. So it's when issues of two cartels or there's infighting or civil war, that's when these other issues happen. And it happens in Mexico, but I think there's a lot of pressure now from the US government. We're seeing, bigger armored presence throughout Mexico, and I think it's starting to be hit head on here. So might get a little bit worse before it gets better in terms of Mexico, but I think longer term it is really beneficial for everyone. Now that it's on everyone's mind and it's out in the open, they can really dive into it, especially the U.S. support. Their intelligence is the best in the world, so if they're providing support to Mexico, I think it's going to be beneficial to all of Mexican miners for sure.
Could you touch on the copper potential with your current assets?
Yeah, I can. So Guitarra, none. That's just precious metal. But Del Toro, there's a fair amount. Where is he going here? If we look at this Grupo project, it's majority copper, and it's literally right beside us. There's some old drill holes there with 2, 3, 4% copper. What's great about Del Toro and the mill itself is we can convert a couple of these flotation cells to a copper circuit. So we feel there's an ability to add to that, and if we find some of these skarns, the skarns are usually more copper rich. So we'll be able to process a material. We don't have an exact idea of the size, but you can see a little bit here of the San Martin and to just under 1% copper. So if we're adding that circuit, and we've seen it up to 3%, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be able to process that and then sell a concentrate. Again, it's all about profitability. So if you're able to add another circuit and spend the time to get that out, it's going to be worthwhile to us for sure.
Current silver prices are driving a great deal of potential expansion. At what minimum price would you continue to make these plans viable? $50 an ounce, $60 an ounce?
La Guitarra, it's happening no matter what. So
Yeah.
24 an ounce, it makes sense. Del Toro, if silver were to drop down to 30, I think we would just focus on exploration. Again, even Del Toro, their costs were down to $13, $14 an ASIC as well. While production got a little bit higher just because the mill is so big. So we just have to find some more. But if it stays at these prices, then the ability to turn on Del Toro still makes a lot of sense. I can't give quite a number yet because we gonna have to work through that. But at these prices, we'd be thrilled. And if it does come down, that's totally fine. We can explore and then turn it on when the time's right. But yeah,
And
anything
just to
above
ble
24 bucks, I'm happy.
Yeah. And with Del Toro, you were saying their historic production costs were around in the low teens, was it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, if not less. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so the thing with Del Toro is it's so big, right? So if you're feeding the mill at full capacity, your costs come really down. But if you're only to feed it at a smaller amount, 2,000 ton per day ball mill is going to cost you a lot of money, just in terms of energy costs. So things we've looked at are perhaps adding a smaller ball mill. Maybe you add 800 ton per day ball mill, so your costs are going to be that much low on your energy side, and you only turn on a few of the flotation cells. You only use a few of the filter presses, things like that to minimize your cost. But if we find what we think we could find, that 2,000 ton per day is going to allow you to really push through a lot of material. And maybe we do look at other areas within the district and bringing in some material from other spots. So lots on the table. I would love the optionality of it. Yeah, but I think if we were to turn this on, we'd probably start smaller scale, like La Guitarra, utilize the pricing that's out there right now, and build the cash flows, and then go explore the rest of the area.
With Del Toro, you said you could accelerate the turning on the production from like an 18-month to a 12-month initially targeted mid 2027, I believe, and you could
Yeah,
start that earlier. Would that just what would that take to accelerate it? Why not accelerate? Does it just cost more money, or what does it take to accelerate that?
it's us diving into it head first.
Okay.
So it's finding the right people. We have a great team, and you want to train and build up the people, but we're so busy at La Guitarra that if we're going to jumping into Del Toro at the same time, want to make sure we're giving both projects justice. So that's one of them, and yeah, it's really the big thing, and just us committing to doing it. I it's starting to make more sense. Every day silver price maintains where it's at. Again, you'll see where we're at in 3 or 4 months. But we're working through both scenarios where we're just working on exploration and we're working through a scenario where we turn this thing on in a year. So give us a bit of time. I don't want to jump too ahead. Let us acquire the project. Let us figure out, over the next 2 to 3 months what that looks like while we're drilling, while we're doing exploration. If, yeah, things are moving forward, we have interest in the different concentrates, things like that. We'll, then hire and then start to, hopefully, if all goes well, could possibly turn it on. If not, then underground development. So that's the other thing. So it would take about a year of underground development traditionally to turn this on. Just development, not underground, but with all the various areas that you'd want to do. Um, so if we were to do it right out of the gate, we would have to catch up on that similar to La Guitarra. So it slows down the development because you're also mining at the same time. But at these prices, you can take full advantage of it as well. And I think the market would like that too.
Given that the production facility is in good shape, the rate limiting factor is getting the actual mine into proper shape and start the mining process. That is what is sort of limiting things.
100%. Yeah, you're absolutely correct,
Okay.
Brian.
Are there on Del Toro, are there any permitting issues that are outstanding at all? Or it sounded, I believe you said you're free and clear on that.
Free, yeah, completely free and clear. Yeah, it's amazing. Like even the explosive permits are ready to go, which aren't
Yeah.
hard to get. It's like it took us, I don't know, 6 weeks at La Guitarra to give you an idea, but at Del Toro, it's ready to go. Power
All
like
right.
this place, it's pretty special. They've done such a good job of the care and maintenance on it. So
Yeah.
now that's at full capacity. So if we were gonna, turn it on at a lower capacity, we'd have to look at doing a few things, but nothing outrageous.
With the from First Majestic, their payment, a substantial portion can be in stock or cash. Is that up to your decision or their decision how they want to be paid?
It's us
Okay.
after the first closing. So yeah, 10 million cash or shares of First Majestic, and that's at Sierra Madre's discretion.
With the like you're choosing not to do a feasibility study because you've got a lot of operational history, they're expensive and complicated and so forth, but it does, I guess, limit your access to debt financing
For sure.
and traditional financing, which is sort of from a finance perspective that's inefficient to not have any debt like that. Are you just like this is sort of the accelerated path let's say you're taking advantage of the opportunity. Are you looking at maybe doing that maybe a couple years down the line as you get bigger so that you can have a more, let's say, balanced capital structure with some debt on the books and so forth?
Yeah, I don't mind debt, especially if you're able to pay it off and you're comfortable with operations.
Yeah,
But the CapEx for this is 10 million. It's not a huge number. So maybe
yeah,
it's an offtake, right? And we do have a little bit of debt on the books. Offtake is going to be a lot less expensive. We actually currently have an offtake that's up in May of this year. So again, there's a way to perhaps renegotiate that. And now that we're going to be producing a lot more concentrate, perhaps even tripling in the next couple of years, there's a lot of value there. So if we were to turn on Del Toro, I'm sure there would be offtake available to us similar to what we have at La Guitarra. And once you have a couple mines in production, getting lower cost debt is much easier as well.
yeah.
Where it might come into play, the more traditional sense would be in the East District. If we think we could find, it's going to need a much larger milling capacity, and probably in the East District, and that's probably where you do the more traditional route, where you would come with a large resource, you would do the infill, do even more, then you would do probably go straight to bankable feasibility or definitive, whatever the lenders would
Yeah.
need, because you're probably looking at a 2,000, maybe 3,000 ton per day mill in operation, and that's not inexpensive. So doing 200 million in equity would be a lot. So you probably want to do as much as you could with debt, but having a couple of the projects in production would make all that process easier. But you'd have to have a proper feasibility at that point
Are there any NSRs on any of the projects
on
or
both of
that?
them.
Can you
Yeah.
clarify that?
Sure. So at La Guitarra, there's a 2% NSR currently, and that's to Metalla. We can buy back 1% for 2 million US, which, probably is making sense in the not too distant future. And there's another 2% NSR to Metalla at Del Toro. So First Majestic sold the portfolio royalties to Del Toro, sorry, to Metalla, and it included both La Guitarra and Del Toro.
Your goal is to become a mid-tier producer. You've obviously just completing another acquisition, so I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But you've got a lot of digestion and operational stuff to do. Maybe in 12 or 24, or sometime in the future, other acquisitions, if they make sense, would be on your radar as well.
No question. Yeah. We're still looking. I think there's a real opportunity to build a mid-tier silver company with a focus in Mexico. It's our expertise. There's a lot of neat stuff out there, whether they're smaller mines that just need a bit of love and some expansion or exploration. So we're looking at mines owned by, big majors, not just First Majestic, some other mines as well, that, may not be in their top 10 in terms of production, that are close. They just don't have the bandwidth to do so. There's a lot of family-owned mines, but we would not make any acquisitions that were not accretive to the companies. Really accretive. So same with Guitarra, same with Del Toro. I think those are both substantially accretive acquisitions, but we're not afraid of M&A. That's for sure. I think we have a long run here, and as long as the projects make sense and with the ability to do so, we'll keep searching.
Are there any aspects we haven't covered that you want to highlight before we wrap it up here?
Not really. I guess just to kind of wrap it up, a junior of our size, with production, expanding production, hopefully tripling production, and 50,000 plus meters of drilling happening on two different projects in two different districts in Mexico. I think it's pretty exciting. There's a decent value proposition there. And we've kind of had our head down over the last couple of years and just executing. And if all goes well, we'll continue to do so. So we have some strong shareholders, large management, insider ownership, and of course the support for First Majestic. So yeah, it's gone well. Knock on wood, we'll continue to do so, and I'm confident we will.
Alex, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Have a great day.
No, thank you so much, Martin. I really appreciate it.
Cheers.